Hello, I'm going to show you how to use GarageBand on a Mac to learn a song if you have a MIDI file for that song. Particularly useful if you're learning some kind of part song in a choir or something like that. But it can be used for any kind of song so long as you've got a MIDI file for it. So I'm going to start up GarageBand. Here we are, it's the one that looks like a guitar. And I'm going to select New Project, Piano, double click on that. Here we go. Learn new song. There we go. So here's our GarageBand window. We've got our list of tracks here. We've just got one empty track at the moment, which is a grand piano. There's a keyboard here that we can play with our mouse if we want. There we go. I'm going to get rid of that for the moment. We've got controls for the for playing here, down here, and we've got a metronome here as well. What I'm going to do first, though, is to go to the track menu and enable multi-track recording here. So if we click on that, we can now pull in a MIDI file that has more than one track. So I've got my MIDI file on my desktop here. I'm going to just drop that in like that. Let's move that back into the full window. There we go. Now I'm going to select these, all of these, and just drag them along so that they're aligned with the start of the file. Just to be tidy-minded, I'm going to get rid of that grand piano track at the top by holding down the Apple Command key and pressing backspace. So we've got rid of that. Okay, there we go. I could have just gone to track and delete track there. Yeah. Anyway, what we have now sounds like this. Which is all very well, but I think that's a little too ethereal for me. So the instrument that is playing the track is shown on the left here, and this is something called Ithaca Vox, which is sort of a synthy, poppy sort of sound. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't like it very much. So I'm going to click on that, and then on the right-hand side we've got pianos and keyboards, and change that to a grand piano. I'm going to do that for each of them. Grand piano. Pianos and keyboards, grand piano, grand piano, grand piano. Now I prefer grand piano just because you get both the rhythm and the pitch very clearly from a piano, so it's quite useful for this sort of thing. This is my line here, the bass 1. Rather than a grand piano, I'm actually going to change this to a tenor sax. So that's a nice clear contrast with the grand piano. So if I play that now, this is what we get. Now that's all very well, but this bottom one here is the volume set a bit high for me because I think this file was originally designed for the bass 2 rather than bass 1. So I'm going to bring the volume down a wee bit. There we are. And you notice there the volume is controlled by this button here. If there's a green dot in here, then click on it to take the green dot off, and you can control it from this slider. I'll tell you about the green dot here in a little bit, but don't worry about it for now. It's not necessary for basic stuff. So there we go. So we'll play that again. And so now my line is nice and clear against all the others, and I can even bring the volume up again up on that. So there we are. It's even louder. If I thought I'd sort of got the hang of it and I wanted to test out whether I really did know it, what I could do is to mute my line So I'm going to click on the mute button here. And it's just playing without my line. And you see my line's gone grey, in fact. Now, one of the things you can probably hear ticking away in the background is the metronome. You might find that helpful, you might not. If you don't find it helpful, it's down at the bottom here. You just click it to turn it off. There we go. I think it's a bit annoying. So let's stop that. Now I stop that by pressing the space bar. You start and stop just using the space bar. You can also just use the mouse on the controls here. One thing that's really useful about GarageBand is that you can actually show it on the score. So I'm clicking here. It's this button down at the bottom. This thing looks like a pair of scissors. It's the edit track. So we pull it up and then select score. You can play the score and it will show you the score as it's playing along. Now I think this is really useful. There we go. Let's go back to the beginning of the song by pressing the sort of I'm not sure what you'd call that arrow. It's I think probably home on a PC you'd call it. It's not marked as such on my Mac. It's just a diagonal arrow pointing up left. Anyway, that takes you back to the start of the song. You can scroll using the mouse, just scroll through so that you can see that your track nice and clearly highlighted. If you wanted to do something a little bit more advanced, for example, if you wanted to boost the alto line so that you could hear your cue coming up, what you can do is, I've clicked on that little thing, little volume button next to here, and because we've got the green light on here, we can actually put a little dot here and a little dot there, and between the dots we can get the volume line to go up, and then we put another dot here and another dot there, and we can bring the volume right back down again, so that when I'm learning the piece, when that bit here in the alto line comes up, which it shows on the score here, when that comes along, in fact, that is the bit. This red line shows you where you are in the song, and you can either drag the red line using the mouse, and you can drag it along the bar at the top, which is showing bars and beats, or you can use the arrow keys on the keyboard. Just the left and right arrow keys will move forwards and backwards by a bar each time you press the key. So now if I play that, you may or may not hear it, but let's see, let's bring that down so we've got a nice contrast. Can't really hear that. Let's bring it up a little earlier. There we are. So that gives you a nice strong cue for your entrance. Whether or not that's going to be useful for your entrance, anyway. So that's that. There was a keyboard here a moment ago, which I showed you, and you can use the keyboard for picking out a tune if you don't have a physical keyboard, just by clicking on each note. And you can go up and down the octave. Take it back up to the bit higher. There we go. That's one thing I forgot to tell you about was how to control the tempo, which is particularly useful if you are trying to learn something with a really tricky bit of rhythm or a tonality associated with it. So what I'm going to do is I'll play you a little bit to show you the kind of thing I'm talking about. Here's a tricky bit of music. No, here we go. There we go. Moderately tricky, I think you'd agree. So I'm going to change the tempo. Now the way we do this, click on, there's a bit at the bottom here. At the moment it shows a clock, which is just the timings in minutes and seconds of the piece. If I click that to project, then I can change the tempo, and I'm going to bring it right down, right down to something half the current speed. Click on the way. And now if I press play, there you go, that's much easier, and then I can take it back up to the correct tempo. I can't remember what it was now, it was about 120 I think. And click back there. There we go, so you can use that to learn a particularly tricky bit just by changing the tempo on GarageBand. And that I hope I think what else you might want to do. Oh, the other thing you can do, once you've done this, if you want to save this as an MP3 file so that you can you can play it on your MP3 player or your iPhone or something like that, you can either export the song to disk, or you can send it straight to iTunes. Now, in my case, I've got a thing on iTunes called Borough Choir that's set up to automatically sync to my iPhone. So if I tell it to Borough Choir, there we are. I'm going to leave those the same and just click share. That will now create an MP3. It'll export it to iTunes, launch iTunes, and start playing it. There we go. And because I've got that automatically set up to sync to my iPhone, it's now it'll be sitting on my iPhone waiting for me next time it syncs. So there we go. That's how to learn a song using GarageBand. Hope that's useful.